Let us begin today. Today, in this lecture, we examine the style of academic writing required in order for you to be successful in your writing in your dissertation. We look three important things in this aspect: how we use, what sort of language we should use in our writing of our dissertation, what are the conventions of grammar and punctuations, and we also talk about the referencing style that we have to follow in our dissertation. And then talking about a very technical and general thing that when you try to bring your final production copy in the form of typed dissertation, what should be the layout of the page, what should be the spacing, what should be the font size, how you are going to give font size to headings, subheadings, and your general sentences that you used to write in, and how to write down references, how references should be quoted, how references should be mentioned in the reference section or bibliography at the end, and reference at the end of every chapter. We will talk about this in today's lecture so that we will have a general idea about how to write dissertation, what is literary research, how to find out research, how to uh, simply search, locate the research, what is the nature of research, what is the scope of research. We have talked about all the different nuances of writing of our dissertation, where we talked about research thesis, what should be the intellectual content in the thesis, how to organize the work, what is the role of supervisor. We have discussed all those things, and we are talking about the last two items, that is grammar, punctuation, and conventions of academic writing, and the layout of the thesis, so that we can come to an end with the unit 1 and we can shift to unit number 2 immediately tomorrow onwards. Now, the very pertinent question that students used to ask when they used to uh, start their writing of dissertation after collecting all the material that they require to follow in pursuing their research, dealing with research and doing the research at that time, it happens always that uh, most of the time, students, after collecting all the data, they start writing. And the first question most of the students ask, that, sir, what should be the language of my dissertation? How should I write dissertation? Similarly, let me tell you one thing, my friends, that when you start, because it is not only related with writing of a dissertation in our discussions, but simultaneously, I'm trying to inform you, I'm trying to make aware you how to write a language in your answer sheets also, because that is going to be very immediately part of your examination. Although I don't know what sort of examination the university has proposed in future, but I'm trying to mention it very carefully with simultaneous approach or simultaneous explanation on how to write a dissertation and how to write an answer in examination, what sort of language it should use. And in the beginning, in the earlier lectures also, I I talked about certain important points, and the points which I talked to you is that we cannot use first person singular pronoun in our dissertation. It is the most concerned topic of the students. Every year, students used to ask the same question, sir, what should be the way of writing of our dissertation? Whether I should use first person singular pronoun. What is first person singular pronoun? It is I. I. I started this research because I'm interested in doing this research, because I am thinking that this research will help me. You use the word I. Most of the time, students try to write down the word using the word I. And it is not at all accepted in any sort of research work to use the first person singular pronoun. In rare cases, it is allowed. But generally, but generally, first person singular pronoun is not allowed in writing of any dissertation, whether it is doctoral dissertation, whether it is postgraduate dissertation. It is not allowed to use first person singular pronoun. Instead of that, you can use third person singular pronoun. Third person singular pronoun. And it is better most of the time that if you try to write down about what you think, what you feel, what is your assumption, what is your perception, how you react, in that case, what you have to do, you have to write down, instead of that, you have to write down the researcher. The researcher decided, the researcher planned, the research state, the research defines. You have to mention third person. You are not talking on your behalf. Who? The question comes always with most of the students used to ask, sir, why not I can use my own pronoun? Because I am writing it, I am dealing with my research. So why should not I use I? Why I am not allowed to use first person singular pronoun? It is not allowed on various reasons. Let me explain it in a very simpler way to you. You are going to raise a question and trying to find out the answer of that particular question. Now, if you are planning, if you are deciding, you should have some sort of, you can say, achievement, or you can have some sort of influence. And very interestingly, apart from this, the most important thing is that in physical sciences, because most of the research we used to follow, we used to be influenced by, we used to have a impact of physical science research writing. And in physical science, the research will go in a third person way, because you are doing the research and the research will produce, the researcher will bring out. You are not the one, you are having your own identity as a researcher. You don't have any specific identity with your name. Nobody knows your name. Please understand this fact, except your research supervisor. Nobody knows your name. So what sort of claims you are making into that particular dissertation, it is not having some sort of authenticity at that time. For gaining authenticity, for understanding, for making the reader, for making the examiner to understand that this is what the research aims at, it is not you aim at. And in physical sciences, it is proven in the laboratory. That's why the research, the experiment will come to an end. So you are also following the same methodology of writing which we used to follow in physical sciences. So the writing in physical sciences has impacted a lot on the writings of dissertation in all other sections, whether it is social sciences, whether it is humanities, whether it is literature, whether it is language. The third person neutral is one of the most important features of writing of thesis in any of the dissertations. Please remember this fact. Please remember this thing again and again. If you want to say something on your behalf, use the word the researcher, or can say the research, or can point out the study, or can say the aim and objective of the research. You can tell these things in this fashion instead of using the first person singular pronoun I. Please don't use that into it. Now, you may have certain queries. Why should not? Or how can I use, if I want to use that? How can I use this first person singular pronoun? Please understand that research was seen as an activity which continuously or which continually involved choices. There were choices to be made about research design, choices about methodology, choices about data collection, and many other aspects of research process. So such choices inevitably involved the researcher in taking subjective decision. And such decisions were subjective because it was possible to assemble evidences to support either one decision or another. Because you have taken certain decision, you have taken certain stance, you have taken certain stand, and to prove your stand, you are taking support of some other's stand. So, in that case, somehow the research should be weaved as neat linear process rather than the complex process. So there is essential, there is the need of writing of desert with third person singular pronoun, because you need not to use the first person in writing of your dissertation. Now, there are many contexts in research writing where decisions are reported. Because when you start writing your conclusion of your dissertation, when you reach to conclusion, you may say, sir, yes, after studying the whole 50 pages, I'm writing my conclusion. And when I'm writing my conclusion, why not I should use the first person singular pronoun I? I defined, I researched, I found. Why can't I use that particular pronoun at that time? So you need to understand this thing very carefully, that what is your aim of research is to reach a particular conclusion. Now, if you are using first person singular pronoun, then it will happen that you are insisting that it is you that find out all those things without anyone's effort, without anyone's support. Because the conclusion which you are going to draw, you have taken support of all these other secondary sources. You have taken support of all the secondary sources. And then you reached to one particular result. Because it is quite difficult, my friend, to say that I did it. No. You have assumed something. And when you assume something and reaching to a particular conclusion, at that time you have taken support of so many scholars. How will you going to deny all those scholars? Because you have mentioned it in references. So all these scholars to whom you are talking about whose support you have taken, you cannot deny their support. So instead of using that, you have to use third person, which is absolutely not favoring anyone. You are not favoring any of the scholar, any of the critique that you have mentioned, and by taking your own understanding of the support that you have taken, you explain it with third person singular pronoun. So it is very much important, my friends, that research in some situations, it is necessary to discuss the complexities of the interaction between researcher and respondent. Sometimes it happens that the sort of responses you are giving, there should be a sort of logical interconnection between the responses that you are delivering and the way you are writing all those things. Most of the time, what happens, the writing of reflective accounts is much more simple to write in first person singular. You feel it is simple to write down in first person singular, but it may it may reflect that your first person singular writing is always insisting that it is you who reached to this, it is you who has defined it, it is you who has searched it instead of researched it. And what I said at the beginning of these lectures in last week, that writing a dissertation is a sort of communication. You want to communicate, you are communicating, and when it is a process of communication, please understand, write in such a style. I'm not saying how to write, because I said it in the earlier lectures also. Writing simple is difficult because most of the time we write in complex sentences. Even if we try to write down it in simple sentence, it is quite difficult to write down in simple sentence, to explain certain things in simple sentence. And that's why most of the time the dissertation is written in complex sentences. But please remember this time and again, whenever you will write down your dissertation, remember this fact, that writing dissertation is a way of communicating your thoughts with the support of some other scholars or critics thought to explain or to raise and get a solution of a question based on, or you have for a particular text, a particular work of art. And for that, you need to explain, you are telling something. It is easy, as I'm talking with you, although it is online. But when I'm talking, as I said you earlier also, I'm using so many non-verbal gestures and postures. When I'm speaking with you, have you observed the fact that I'm using a typical intonation? Sometimes my statement is in rising tone, sometimes it is in falling tone, sometimes it is in fall rise tone, sometimes I'm taking a pause, sometimes I'm making a complete long statement without taking any pause. My non-verbal gestures and my use of punctuation in delivering a lecture or giving you a statement carries all the punctuation marks which are necessary. But when you are writing your dissertation, it is most essential, my friends, that the way you are talking with your friends, in the same fashion, if you are writing it in your dissertation, you are not going to get a proper or good kind of writing or good kind of dissertation as such. And that's why it is very much difficult for most of us to understand, to realize this fact that writing of a dissertation, if you're writing a dissertation and if you're trying to write down certain dissertation, it is very much difficult to write dissertation if you are not using the way of communication. Your way of communication need to be followed very categorically. Please understand, I'm insisting this word. The way you communicate, the way you talk, you cannot write down in the same fashion. But when you write down your dissertation, please remember this fact that your dissertation is a sort of communication with the examiner. And that's why when you write in a style which communicates your idea very clearly. And that's why it may vary from student to student. There is no specific format that, okay, I should follow one specific ideal or model, or there is very interesting word, model answer. There is no as such model. It varies from person to person, and that's why it is absolutely subjective. What I am writing need not to be followed the way that other 20 students are writing in the same fashion. Not at all. It is absolutely impossible to have the same model of for all the students. We can say it in different way. You can write in a style which communicates your idea very clearly and accurately. And those ideas which you are communicating should follow your methodology very properly. What sort of methodology I'm using? I'm using comparative. I'm comparing the two things together. Whether I'm interpreting the things, I'm using an interpretative methodology. I'm interpreting the thing by taking support of all these other interpretations that are available with me. One text can be interpreted in many ways. That is a postmodern approach. One text is having multiple meanings. So you are finding one meaning and trying to explain that meaning in your own way by taking support of all others who had analyzed, who are interpreted that. So there is comparative way, there is interpretative mode, there is analytical mode. You are analyzing the thing, explaining the thing. Critical approach, you are having a critical approach. You're trying to find out certain things with your critical ideas. So you have to write down your dissertation in such a fashion that it should follow your methodology very successfully. So it is very clear that we use third person in writing of our dissertation, number one. Number two, the most important thing. What should be the language of my writing? Okay, I talked about only one pronoun. How to use, whether the pronoun I or first person or third person, I talked about it. But what should be the language of my dissertation? That is a very big question in front of most of the students. So what should be my language? And what is mean by my language of dissertation? When writing a thesis, it is very much important to select the terminology which treats both the genders equally. All the genders. Whether it is masculine, whether it is feminine, whether it is neutral. Especially we used to insist on the two genders, feminine and masculine. And your writing should be always in neutral gender, not favoring any one of the gender always. Because you have to select the language which does unfairly distinguish the genders. You have to use such kind of language that it should not have one specific either male oriented or female oriented expressions. It should be neutral expressions. The language should be neutral language. I'll give a very, very simple idea to you. Simple, like, uh, yeah, we are. If you're watching any film, or why should go with the film? If you're taking a photograph with your smartphone, with your mobile cameras, what is the language of your camera? Whether it is male or female? No. When you try to capture certain thing, it is camera's language, and camera's language is always neutral. It never follows any sort of gender in itself. So when a film is shot on with the help of camera, that language of a film is always neutral language. It is not gender biased. So while writing dissertation, our language should be neutral language. It should not follow any specific gender. Sometimes you may have a thing, because in discussion of general research issues, writers or researchers employ a number of strategies to avoid the use of single pronoun. Sometimes the use of pronoun will be alternated. Most of the time students feel that in one chapter they use he, in other chapter they use she, and says that we have balanced it. In one chapter we have used he, in one chapter we have used she. No. What you are following should be followed throughout your dissertation. If you're using he, used throughout he in your dissertation. If you're using she, use throughout in your dissertation she. But don't play with the word he and slash she. This is also allowed. He slash she, or s slash he, or s in bracket he. These are the terms that are commonly being used. But being a postgraduate dissertation, we need to take care of this important fact that we should not follow such type of complex methods. When you become a good writer, when you understand how to write it, and then you start writing it, at that time you can play with the words easily. But as a student of first year, as a student of postgraduate courses, we need not to have a complex use of language while writing the dissertation. Instead, if you're following one, not essential that you should follow he or you should follow she. You can follow she throughout, no problem. You follow he throughout, no problem. But follow one particular pronoun throughout the dissertation. Because if you are using these different pronouns or clumsy pattern of writing pronouns, then you are not communicating your ideas very properly with the readers, with the examiner. And that's why when you use a language, your language should be gender neutral. Your language should not be having any gender. It is not at all reflecting any kind of gender into it. These are the two important things about use of language: third person and gender, neutral gender, a neutral gender neutral language. These are the two things. Please remember whenever you will write down your dissertation, or whenever you will write down your answers in examination. Please follow this instruction carefully, so that it will be easy for you to go ahead with your writings. Another important thing, as I said, that every dissertation requires support of secondary sources. You cannot say that I'm not using any secondary sources, I'm not following any secondary source. No, you have to follow secondary sources. Why you have to follow secondary sources? The reason is that you have to prove what you want to say with the taking support or evidences from the other important critics, and those supports which we Used to take from others, used to call as secondary sources. References, we are taking references of other writers in support of what we are claiming, what hypothesis we declared, what hypothesis was objective, what aims of our research has defined and decided. We are trying to follow that particular design. And that's why what we are doing, we are trying to get the things in a very particular way, in a very proper way. And that's why please understand that when you include any extract from book, journal, article, or research report, or Wikipedia, or internet pages, whatever things you are taking directly, you have to make a very fundamental thing into it, that it has to be located differently in your writings. It should not follow, it should not look like the same as you're writing it in general way. In general way, when you're writing, and if you have taken an extract from the book as it is, it should be look different from your typing. It is a very interesting typical typing instructions, I will tell you. This is a very typical typing instruction. The reference should be look like different. The different reference, it will help you to find it out that yes, you have taken it from the original text. It is not your, it is not what you are trying to talk about. It is you have taken it from the book as it is. So it will not considered as copy. It will not considered as plagiarism. If you don't make the layout of the quotation different, then you will be treated that you have copied it. Because not only taken the layout, you have to mention it. You have to mention the reference of it from where you have acknowledged it. How to acknowledge it, I will talk in the next point. But the layout of your quotation should be different. Now let me tell you what exactly, if I'm telling you again and again, layout. What is exactly the layout of the page that you are typing on the screen? I think you remember I said that your A4 size page on your computer screen carries 28 lines. That's what I said to you earlier. A4 size page consists of approximately 28 lines. And in these 28 lines, you are writing approximately 8 to 10 words, not more than that. If you're typing it also. It's a general approximate calculation. Okay. It is approximate calculation that you will write down maximum 8 to 9 words into it. Now, let me tell you one thing. The page which you are selecting, I don't know how many of you are familiar with working on computer. I don't know how, and even as I'm not watching, as I'm not able to see you in front of me. Otherwise, your facial expressions will explain that yes, I can able to do the work on computer. I'm typing it on computer, so I know how to type it, how to mention the things on computer. I'm not able to get because your faces are not disclosed. But if you are typing on a computer, there's a normal layout of a computer page. If you're typing on Word, you'll find out on the top of your computer there is a home, then insert, and then page layout. If you see the page layout very carefully, you'll find out it will give 5, 7, 8 types of page layouts. Which page layout we should select for our typing of a dissertation. If you write it on your page and give it to the typist, professional typist know it, what is the layout. But if somebody is trying to, because we are talking about research methodology and this is a technical part of research methodology. If somebody is typing on his own computer, if he's a good typist, no problem. If he wants to type the things by own, you should understand what should be the layout. The layout of the page is 1 by 1 by 1 by 1, and left should be 1.5. There should be long margin left side. Why? Because when you're binding it, 0.5 is going into binding. So it should look like 1 by 1 by 1. Okay? It is a very general thing. And when you're writing, when you're putting your quotation into it, the spacing, the lines, the one line and second line, there should be distance in the two lines. It is expected. It varies from university to university. Again, I'm telling you that there should be a space of two lines, either double space or spacing of 1.5. The spacing should be of 1.5, either double or 1.5. The page layout, one by, I'll show if I'm having any open simple page. Okay, now this is a page. This is the page. One by one by one by one. All from four sides, there should be one by one by one. The margin. And when you are typing, there should be space between the two lines should be of either 1.5 or 2. You will find out this is what a general understanding of how many lines, how many space you should give in typing. Most of the time what happens, students are not familiar with the space. How much space should I give in the lines? Usually in textbooks there is a spacing of only single spacing is there. But when you're typing of a dissertation, there should be 1.5 or double space should be there. And when you write quotation, the left indent of quotation should be of 2. Usually you are sparing 1.5 in left, but when you are quoting something, you have to give a quotation indent or margin of 2. Why 2? Because it should look like small box. It looks like a small box. And when you are giving a spacing of 1.5 or 2 in your two lines, in quotation there should be single spacing as it is written in the text. Either you can do it italics, either you can bold it, either you can make an different font so that it will look like that you have taken it. It is not your version, it is taken from some other books. Very interestingly, you will find out, my friends, that when you take quotation from some original text, and as I said, it should be either in italics, it should be either bold, it should have a left indent 2, it should look like a box. I'm trying to show it if it is with me in some writings or not. If the book is there, I'll show you that how it is been written. If I'm having certain, let us hope that I'll get something in some of the books that are here in my library. I'll try to show how the research, how usually. Now see, I'll show it in the book. I don't know how many of you can be able to see very carefully properly. Now, if you're looking into the book, I'm posing in front of you. Now, the last section. See, the earlier one, this one, said by the writer, and this is the quotation he has taken. Look out the quotation. The margin is left more. The usually margin is here, and the margin of this text is here. So you can see there is a small distance there in writing. I'll show another quotation so that you can easily see it. You can easily understand it. See this quotation. Are you able to see it very comfortably? I don't know. If it is not, please reply. This is what quotation is. This is what the person is saying. This is a quotation. It is somehow inside. It looks like something box. It is different. And here in the corner, you will see that there is something written in the bracket. Something is written in the bracket. When you are watching this, that something is written in the bracket. If you see it very carefully, there is something that is written in the bracket here. Now, what is written in the bracket there is very important. What is that in the bracket? It is, you can say, my friend, that what the person has written, because if you have taken this quotation, I have shown you the layout of that quotation, how it has been quoted. And then in the bracket, you will find out numbers written there. There are certain numbers. It is a sort of reference, acknowledging that again and again I'm telling you have to acknowledge. What are you acknowledging? In the bracket, you will write down three things. Please understand this. It is a most important technical thing. Otherwise, it is considered as plagiarism. Plagiarism in Marathi called as Vangmay Chaurya, Chori. You have copied it, you have taken it without acknowledging. And that is a big crime in research. So if you are taking the quotation from any book, you have to mention either the name of the writer in your paragraph, as even saying that Smith and Jones in their work mentioned that, and write down what they mentioned. You are taking the original text from their quotation. And in the bracket, what you are writing the year of publication, 1962. Give colon. Colon is 2 dots. And page number, on which page this quotation is. Page number 27. Now here you have given two numbers, 1962 and 27. 1962 is year of publication of the book, and 27 is the page number of the book where the reference is, where you have taken the quotation. The quotation is on page number 27. Whosoever wants to check it, they can go and check it. Take the name of Smith and Jones and the book published in 1962. Which book Smith and Jones published in 1962? The name you have given in the bibliography. I'll talk of bibliography afterwards. If you're not mentioning the name of the writer in the first paragraph, then what you have to write down? Write down the name of the writer Smith and Jones first, then give comma, then write down 1962, then give colon, then write down 27, page number. If you have not mentioned the name of the writer in the early paragraph. If you are trying to say directly, and then give in bracket name of the writer, comma, year of publication, colon, page number. This is the system which is required when you are referencing it, when you are giving it. You have to acknowledge it in a very proper way. Now, there are very specific way of referencing. There are two different ways of referencing, MLA and APA. MLA is Modern Language Association, which used to publish a book called Handbook of Research, where they mentioned about how you should write quotation. MLA, Handbook of Research. Now, 8th edition is published. And APA, American Professional Association. But usually in literature, we used to follow MLA, MLA style of referencing. What is MLA style of referencing? An MLA style of referencing is very commonly used. MLA, Modern Language Association. It used to publish after every year or after a couple of years. If there are any changes, they used to publish the Handbook of Research, and we have to follow that method. They have mentioned it in every research. You should be very alert with your understanding that you are updated. So you need to be updated with using the referencing style. What is a referencing style? Now please understand, when your first chapter comes to an end, or second chapter comes to an end, third chapter comes to an end, and you have quoted some of the good scholars into those chapters. Now what happens when you quoted the scholars? If I'm an examiner, I want to understand what you have written, and you have given Smith Jones in bracket 1963 and 27. Now I want to know that which book you have followed of Smith Jones. Where should I get the detailed information about the name of the book? So by the end of the chapter, you should give the complete detailed information about it. And how you write the information? The information will appear twice, my friends. This information will appear at the end of every chapter as a reference, and at the end of your dissertation called bibliography, where you will mention all the books you read. Please understand, there is little bit of change, and it is said that sometimes MLA Handbook 8 is stating that you need not to follow the reference at the end of every chapter, but it is good for informing the examiner that what sort of sources you have used in this chapter. You are mentioning it immediately at the end of the chapter, and what sort of texts you read in the whole bibliography. Please understand, there is a difference between the two words. reference or work cited, and bibliography. Bibliography is exhaustive. Why bibliography is exhaustive? Because you are giving the names of the books which you have not used in the dissertation, but you read to formulate your hypothesis, but you read to formulate your research. That's why you have read so many books which are not at all used in your dissertation, but you read it to understand, to mention what is the topic, how you are going to write down your dissertation. So bibliography is mentioning, is the explanation, or is the analysis, or is the giving idea about all the text that you read to formulate the whole research. And references the text which you have used in that particular chapter. So how will you write down? Please understand this. I think I have explained it earlier also, but I am repeating it once again. First, if you're taking it down, please note it very carefully. At the first, what you have to do, at the first, you have to write down the surname of the writer. Surname of the writer. Then give comma. Please understand these punctuations. Because if you miss the punctuations, you are not going to communicate it properly. Punctuations are important for communicating the things in a very proper fashion. Surname of the writer, comma, either his initials or name. Either her initials or name. If there is a name, write down the name. If there is initial, write down the initial. Shakespeare, comma, William. Give full stop after William. Or Eliot, comma, T dot S. Okay. Then in bracket, write down the year of publication, because you have mentioned it in your reference. Smith and Jones, then comma 1962 or 63, colon 27, you have given like this. So what is Smith 1963? Smith J in bracket 1963. So immediately the examiner will find out that yes, the reference is Smith J 1960. Oh, this is the reference, what he's talking about there in the chapter. And then close the bracket, then write down the name of the text. I'm repeating it once again. First, write down the surname of the writer, comma, name or initials, full stop, in bracket, write down the year of publication, then bracket close, then write down the name of the text or name of the book, which should be written in italics or bold or underline. It should be marked something different. Text, name of the text, again give full stop. Then if it is edition, write down edited. Who is edited? Who is the editor of that book? Write down the name of that editor. If there is no editor, then first thing I'll tell you one by one. So first, surname of the writer, comma, initials or his name, full stop, in bracket, year of publication. After bracket, there is name of the text, then give full stop, then give place of publication, where the book was published. Usually you will find out all those things appearing on the very second page of the book. I'll show it. This is the second page of the book, and you will find out here it is mentioned all the things. It is also already it is mentioned here. If you see very carefully, published by Tulika Books. When it is published, it is published. It is written here. It is published here. So right on the second page of every book, you will find out this detailed description. That in bracket, the year of publication, name of the text, place of publication, whether it is published in Delhi, in London, in Birmingham, the name is given there. And then give colon, two dots, and place of publication. Where is the place? Sorry, what is the name of the publisher? Place of publication you have given, then colon, name of the publisher, whether it is Oxford University Press, whether it is Language Press, whether it is Tulika Books, whether it is XYZ Books, any name of the publisher. This is the one. Another kind of reference, if you are taking in from edited books, if there is no one writer, you have taken it from an edited books. Now, very interestingly, it is a little bit different. You have taken the quotation from particular article which is published in one book. The article is published in the book. So first time, write down the name of the writer, surname of writer, comma, initials in bracket, year of publication. Then write down the title of that article, contemporary existentialist thought. Now, where in Bradley, that is the name of the editor. Write down in bracket. After writing Bradley, write down in bracket ed. Ed means edited. Close the bracket, give comma, then write down the name of the book, A History of Modern Philosophy. Then full stop, then place of publication, London, name of publisher, Thames Publication. This is how you can give referencing. If it is in journal, write down the name of the writer, surname of writer, name of writer in bracket, year of publication, title of your article, then give comma and which journal, name of the journal, and what is the volume of the journal, volume 28, issue 3. That is how you have to mention the things. Please understand, my friends, your thesis requires a proper referencing. If you're taking it from website, if you're taking all those things from website, you have to write down surname of the writer, comma, initials, full stop in bracket, year of publication, then title of the article, then write down the address which is appearing on the address bar at your computer, http://www.soandso.com, then slash all this address which will appear on your address bar, and then write down accessed on which date you have accessed it. Accessed on 18th March 2021. Why? Sometimes it may happen that what you have accessed may have been removed from the computer. So on that day when you have accessed, it was available on the computer. So you have mentioned the date accessed on. So you have to follow that particular referencing style that will come at the end of the bibliography also and at the end of the chapters everywhere. What should be the font size? Font size should be of 12. Font size should be 12. Heading should be 14. Title should be 16. Please understand this. This is an MLA style of writing the dissertation, which is accepted universally. Title should be of 16 size. Font size should be 16. Headings should be 14. And rest of the writing should be in 12 font size. Spacing is either double or 1.5. Please understand this. Please remember this. When you're typing it, you should follow this particular method in typing. And if you are giving any sort of referencing, any sort of specific ideas, you should give. If you're making a questionnaire and taking answers of the questions, please submit your questionnaire as the form of appendices at the end of your dissertation. Appendices at the end of your dissertation. If you have taken an interview of someone and if you want to give the interview, you can give the whole interview at the end after bibliography, write down appendices and separately attach it appendices so that the examiner will be able to find it out that what you are writing, what you are saying is quite good. If you are giving any sort of tabulated form, please use the tabulated form by giving specific numberings to it. Numberings are essential. And please understand one thing, my friends. In bibliography, please do not give numbers to the text that you read, because sometimes you read very less text, and if you are giving numbers, the examiner will understand it's 24 text only he read. No, he should read 50. So instead of giving numbers, give bullets. This is a small trick that I'm telling you, that you should give bullets to it. One, two, round bullets, which will any form of bullet which you feel good for your dissertation. Number one. Number two, there should not be any decoration for that dissertation. Please understand this. Avoid color pages if not required. Don't use color pages. Don't use any color into your dissertation. Your dissertation should be simple, sober, without having any gaudy color or colorful. No, you have to simply write down the things. Don't make it decorative, giving flowers and trees and no, no pictures. No pictures are required. If it is part of your research, then give the picture of that research. But if it is not part of your research, if you want to show, sir, I want to show the photo of my writer. Why? Does the writer ask you? No. Then why you are putting a picture of your writer on in your dissertation? Don't give picture of any writer, nor yours, nor your teachers, nor your supervisor. No. If the picture is related with your research, then give it. Otherwise, don't use picture. Don't decorate your research. Your dissertation should be in a simple way. It should show the seriousness in your data collection. It should show seriousness in your writing. It should show seriousness in your understanding of the topic. It should show seriousness about reaching to a particular result at the end of your research. Then and then your dissertation should be a proper communicative dissertation. Otherwise, the dissertation is not communicating the things to the examiner who is the first reader. And that's why please try to communicative and try to write down in a very proper, understandable, clear writings. Here we stop with the first unit.